Hello there, my friends. Before we jump into today's episode, I have a quick message for all my fitness business nerds out there who own a brick and mortar training gym studio. I just really want to make sure you know that we are opening enrollment right now, our mid-year enrollment for our Unicorn Society group, which ends June 12th. So if you apply by June 12th, you get a super early bird rate in addition to a whole bunch of other perks. And as Mark and I have talked about on this podcast before, the Unicorn Society is really a communal learning and support network for people who own training gyms. Help you stay on track, set clear goals, have support by people who've been there and done that. Being part of the group means you get to connect with other entrepreneurs just like yourself on a regular basis, plus have unlimited access to me and Mark Fisher and Pete Dupuis. And so it's a fantastic group. If you think it's a right fit for you, or even if you're not sure, go to our website, go to businessofunicorns.com, click on Unicorn Society, and apply. Applying doesn't mean you're committing. Applying just means that you're interested and you want to talk about it. And then you and I, or you and me and Mark, we can all get on the phone or on a Zoom and just talk about whether it's the right fit for you. But we have only a limited number of spots. It's not just marketing BS. We really only do let a number of people, a small number of people at a time. So if you're interested, please apply. Get that early bird rate before June 12th. And if you have any questions, just email me, michael@businessforunicorns.com. But thanks for listening. On with the episode. Hello, friends. Today I'm speaking with Mark Fitzgerald, who's a badass fitness entrepreneur in Canada. His main business, he's the founder of Elite Training Systems. That's multiple locations in the Ontario area. And we talk about a variety of topics on this conversation. Mark has been doing this for a long time, and he works mainly with athletes of all different levels, as well as some general population clients. And one of the first topics we dive into is a conversation about resilience and how important it is for him as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as a dad, to demonstrate and teach resilience in his life, the ability to bounce back, to stick to it, to keep coming back after getting knocked down. So we have a great conversation about resilience and the power of that as a business owner and human. We also talk about how to stand out in the crowd, how to break through the noise and get people to see your business for the unique things it has to offer. We also talk about what general population gyms can learn from more athlete-centric training gyms. And so that's a fascinating conversation. As someone who owns a gym that kind of serves a general population, it's interesting to think about what we can learn from folks who work with athletes. And so, plus we cover a lot more in this conversation. It's a fantastic conversation. I will say we had some technical glitches along the way, but if you can stick with us through a little bit of clicks and editing in the audio and video, it's a conversation that's well worth the listen. So many great takeaways. So enjoy this conversation with Mark Fitzgerald. The Business for Unicorns podcast is for fitness business owners who want actionable strategies to grow their business, take amazing care of their clients, and build a life and business they truly love. I'm your host, Michael Keeler, co-founder of Mark Fisher Fitness, and through Business for Unicorns, I'm a coach and consultant to industry-leading fitness studios around the world. Let's get started. Hello, fitness business nerds. Welcome to another episode of Business for Unicorns podcast. I'm really excited today to talk with Mark Fitzgerald. Mark has been in the industry for over 15 years, working with athletes from all different levels of sport. He owns lots of different gyms. He has 4 in the Ontario area, plus others in Canada. We're going to talk about all of them today. And I'm just really excited to get to know Mark a little bit more. So let's dive in and do this. Mark, welcome to the virtual stage. Thanks for being here.
Awesome, Mike. Thank you so much for having me, man. I'm very excited to chat.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I love having a car chat. I mean, cars are just great places to talk, you know?
Well, it's a little bit of a break for me. I just work with some groups of athletes there and a little bit of a coffee run time and then back at it.
I love it. Making the most of the time you got. Well done, my friend.
Oh, yeah. Always.
Well, let's start here. I've been talking with all of my guests to kick off our conversations, just talking about COVID. I just feel like if we don't talk about it, it's just kind of ignoring the context of our lives and our work these days. So, just talk to me a little bit about with all of your training gym locations, how are they doing in this latest phase of opening? I know in Canada things have been open and closed a few times, and so where are you at right now, and how are you navigating it in all your businesses?
Well, yeah, obviously it's challenging. I think first and foremost, I have an incredible team, that really has, focused on my message of, having a good plan and making sure that we don't deviate from that plan. We can react and adapt with that plan, but not having one, just creates more stress for everybody, so I think they've done a phenomenal job at that. Where I am in Kelowna, BC, is much better off than the rest of Canada. We're back into. I have 3 kids. My son just played a soccer game this weekend. We're back into training larger groups of people, indoor dining. So it's actually pretty normal out here. But in Ontario, facilities are still closed. We're going to start next week some outdoor training. But yeah, it's not looking great for Ontario. We might be back in the facility, maybe end of June, something like that. So it's the outlook is a little more bleak there. But I also think too, it looks like our vaccination percentage is going up, daily, so I think once that starts to kind of unfold, I think it'll probably get expedited a little bit. I know now, obviously I work in the hockey world. So tonight in Toronto, there's a huge hockey game between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens, game 7 of the playoffs. And they're allowing 500 healthcare workers who have been vaccinated into the building. So that's
Wow.
massive. That's a big step. So it's good I think it's good for everybody, to be honest. So I think it is what it is. We're doing the best we can. We're getting through it. And hopefully once we get these vaccinations rolled out, then we won't have to keep going back and forth between opening and closing.
Yeah. I mean, so many people I'm talking to, that's been the hardest part of this, or one of the hardest parts is just the not knowing of being
Mm-hmm.
closed and not knowing how long, excuse me, how long it'll last, or even being open and not knowing how long it will last and just not knowing what's
Yeah.
coming around the bend. But I love what you said about having a plan and making sure everyone's on the same page to articulate that plan and communicate it. And so can you just say a little bit more about how do you do that? Right? How did you make sure that there was a plan that everyone in the team was comfortable communicating and representing to clients? What was that like?
Well, I mean, I think it starts with, my reaction to it, being the leader or being, the guy at the top. And I don't mean that I own the gyms, right? So it's
Yep.
coming from me. So I have to make sure that my messaging is, consistent and calm. And, I'm not getting too, and I'm not perfect by any means. I do get caught up and angry or what have you, but trying to kind of put that aside and realize that, it's affecting people differently. I have a range of staff from, my age and up to, 20 somethings that, are going through something completely different than me, so just trying to be aware of those types of things and make sure that, we're just talking through things that are important to everybody. My
Yeah.
staff, a bunch of young guys that love to golf, so the last time I was home, I got them all some golf shoes and some golf gear just to kind of, hey, thanks. I appreciate what you're doing. And, this will be over soon and we'll be back out golfing and we'll be, trying to keep everybody kind of lighten the load a little bit, I guess, and when it
Yeah.
comes back to, the planning part is just being very direct. Look, this is what we have in front of us. We can't start to build out these elaborate programs and stuff that's just not going to happen, so what can we do, focusing on what's right in front of us, I guess. Like, how do we make sure we take care of the people that we have? Okay, well, instead of trying to drum up new business, let's take care of what is right in front of us. So I think that's kind of everything else kind of delineates off that, is making sure that we're managing the people that are still within our grasp, and I think that's a lot of people, from my understanding anyways, oh, go virtual, do this, do that. It's like, well, if you have a population that's right in front of you, let's just take care of them, and I think we did a really good job of that. And yeah, people got scared and people got nervous, and hey, you can't tell people what to do. You can only give them information. You can only give them support. Like, at the end of the day, that's all you can do, right? So I think just focusing on the things you can control and what's right in front of you and making sure that we're servicing our clients that need it.
Yeah. That's really great response, Mark, because there's so many things in there I think are great takeaways for our listeners to model that you seem to be doing really well. I mean, one is just recognizing the first thing you said was that you didn't say exactly like this, but that your behaviors as a leader are really loud, right? That your reaction is going to be noticed and be amplified throughout the business. So if you can stay level-headed and calm and transparent and focused, right, that will have a ripple effect in your business. So I think that's a really important message for people to hear. And then I love also what you're saying that it's a good time during these this changing environment, this constantly changing environment, to take care of your team. To show them appreciation, right? To let them know that you appreciate them for the work that they're doing, whether that's gifts or just verbal praise, like that. It's an important time to do that. And we forget when we're in a crisis how valuable it is to show appreciation for people doing good work. And then obviously the last thing you said there, which was, planning based on what you know, doing the best with what's in front of you, being candid and transparent with your team and your clients, and planning based on the facts, trying to be realistic about it. That's the best we can do when the environment is constantly shifting. So those are really great takeaways. I appreciate that. And listeners and viewers, write that down. Those are all great ways to model leadership during times of change and crisis. So yeah, good for you, my friend. Cool. Well, let's switch gears. This is a related topic, but different. One of the things I know that you think is kind of one of your superpowers, you mentioned this before we started, when I asked you before we got on the call today, you mentioned that one of your superpowers is resilience. One of the things that you think you're uniquely good at is just being resilient. So talk to me about that. What does resilience mean to you? What makes you think you're so good at it?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It's obviously, I don't know if I've ever answered a superpower question before. So it was trying to find the right answer, the trying to stay humble in it, because I think I'm that way as opposed to the opposite. But I look at resiliency as just kind of, something I say to my kids, and this is something that I took from a mentor of mine. Was just, you always do your best and you never give up, and that's a very broad statement, obviously, because it can encapsulate a lot of different things, a lot of different ideas. But for me, it's a mentality around, you make a commitment to something and you're going to see it through. Now, that doesn't mean that you can, use my son as an example. We were talking about his soccer team, and he was, getting frustrated with not playing games and what have you. And, I say it to him all the time. There's a picture in his room of, the quote, you always do your best and you never give up. I make them say it to me, all three of the kids. And, it's just more of a mindset of, hey, if you say you're going to do something, you do it to your best of your ability. And then when it's over, if it's something, or when the commitment is finished, if it's not something you want to continue, no problem. But we don't quit on things, right? So, yeah. And it's been tough because both my wife and I, believe in it wholeheartedly. And sometimes it's a difficult conversation. Sometimes it's just the way that you approach your schoolwork or whatever, right? And it's, cleaning up after yourself at home and, whatever, you do your best at it and you don't give up. And it's something that I'll continue to, drill into their little heads, because I think it's something that can go with them for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, it's such a great take, excuse me, on resilience. And it's so important that this is something that's instilled in people at a young age, which is so great that you used your kids as an example, right? Because, resilience is about the ability to be flexible and bounce back in the face of adversity or challenges. And so if you don't like something, cool, well, how do you bounce back from that and make the most of it because you committed? So there's something about that that's also a teaching integrity, right, kind of at the same time, which is so great. And I also imagine this is a really useful kind of superpower, if you forgive the expression, to have as a business owner, an entrepreneur, this ability to be resilient and bounce back when things don't go well. So can you just talk a little bit about, when you're faced with a giant challenge like a global pandemic, or let's just say something a little less scary, like, just a downturn in sales or a person who unexpectedly quits. Talk to me a little bit about when you have that sense of resilience in bouncing back and sticking with it, how does that show up for you as a business leader?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, going back to why you started, going back to, I feel very fortunate, in a bigger picture of I'm able to do what I love doing. And so many of my friends and, family people, whatever, just have jobs, and I feel like I don't really have a job because I get to help people be better. I get to be a part of an athlete's career in some small way. I get to, participate in preparing athletes for, the biggest stage of their lives, so it's like, man, if this is my job, then, I'm pretty lucky, and I think that's having the resiliency to say, okay, yeah, get knocked down 7 times, get back up 8. Why are you getting back up? Well, I'm getting back up because of the goosebumps and that feeling in your head when you have an athlete that gets it, or you have an athlete that shows appreciation in some way, shape, or form, or you have somebody that like breaks through something and accomplishes something incredible. Like, how do you replace that tingle? How do you replace that feeling? I think it's it's really tough because there's a lot of people in our world that don't really get that a whole lot, and
Yeah.
I got it this morning, just some new young athletes in our facility, and you see that spark when they get what you're saying. They start to understand, oh, if by that you mean this. Yes, exactly. So that coaching is just, I don't know. I think whenever we have downturns, whenever we have dips in the road, it's like, okay, why are we here?
Yeah.
Why do we have this business? Why are we doing what we're doing? I think really that goes back to that anchor of, okay, we came here to help people, and I think saying that to young coaches as they come through our, intern program or stuff like that, it's make sure you're here for the right reasons, like make sure
Yeah.
you're here for the underlying reason of helping people, being the best part of somebody's day. Like that's why we're here, and I feel like if you have that as the groundwork or the base, then, you have a lot of opportunity to continue to do what you do. Right. So that's the way that I look at it, as, that resiliency is kind of like the foundation, as cliche as
Yeah.
that is. I guess cliches are cliches for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I love the way you frame that, Mark. I think you used the word anchor at one point, and that you're really anchored by your why. So when you think of, being in a boat, being in troubled waters, it's like, well, the anchor for you is going back to like, well, why am I even doing this in the first place? Why does this even matter? Why am I passionate about this? And going back to getting your clients results, working with amazing people on your team, getting, I think you said, that tingle every time you work with a new client or athlete who like really gets it and makes improvements. I mean, that's the thing that'll ground you when times are tough, when the shit's hitting the fan, to be like, oh, it reminds me of the book, Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why.
Yeah.
It's like when you can be grounded in the why of something, it really is so meaningful. So I think that's a great tip. And for people listening who are, going through troubled times, right, to stop and pause and once in a while and ask yourself, what's this all about? Why am I doing this? It can be a really great exercise. Yeah. Cool. Let's talk about this. You actually kind of mentioned this briefly, which made me think of it, which is, you mentioned so many people in our industry and the fact that there's a lot of people doing this kind of work, which leads me to this topic of like, how do you stand out? And this is something that you think about and talk about a lot in our spaces, is always, depending where you live, pretty saturated. There's a lot of training gyms, a lot of people doing work with athletes like you're doing. And more, we're having more and more competition from online sources, whether we like to think of them as competition or not. They're there competing for people's time and attention and money. And so these days, I mean, standing out from the crowd becomes even just more important than it's ever been. So how do you think about differentiating yourself in a crowded space?
Well, yeah, I think you're right. There's so much more out there now. There's so many more options for people to get fit. I would say probably 8 to 10 years ago was the, CrossFit explosion of, a lot of people getting bent out of shape about CrossFit. And it's like, hey, CrossFit's going to help everybody, because it's going to make more people, go to a gym and put a barbell in their hands. Sometimes it's good for people, sometimes it's not. That's a different interview, but in my opinion, it's positive overall, because it's just more awareness around health and wellness, so there's a lot of different ways to do things, and I think for us and for ETS and for myself, like standing out means results. It means nothing but results. Like I don't think it can be, really done any other way. Like, there's people in our industry that are, social media savvy and build a lot of business and whatever off that. That's not us. That's not me. We try to build it off results, and making sure that, we don't have to scream and tell everybody about how good we are or what we're doing, but the athletes will do that. The results will do that. I've had clients that, the day they were drafted to the day they retired. I don't think there's a lot of, other than someone like Mike Boyle, who has that type of retention through career type retention, and I think that's something to be proud of. And not to say that you have to have that, but for us, that's what I look at. That's what I look at as standing out. Come to us for one summer of off-season training. Yeah, you'll get better, but come to me for the next 5 to 8 years, and then we can really, really do something special, So
Yeah.
I think that, that standing out goes to playing the long game with long-term athletic development and, teaching our athletes instead of spoon feeding, making sure that they understand why we're doing what we're doing, ask better questions, get them involved in the process. And sometimes that's not always the most financially rewarding, but it is rewarding in terms of, just that retention, that athlete trust. And I think once you have that, it really just kicks down the door to, a
Yeah.
long lasting relationship.
Yeah. Well, what I love so much about your answer is that it's really about the meat and potatoes of running a solid business. It's like if you want to grow, you want to have a successful business, just do good work, right? Just get the people the results you promise them, right? Just get people to, and for you, because you're working primarily with athletes, that sometimes that path is a little more linear than it might be with the general population. But I think it's still a great message across the board that if you want people to talk about you and to refer people and to come back again and again, give them the best experience possible. And I think it doesn't get any simpler than that. Actually, let's talk about the difference for a second, because I know a lot of my listeners don't work with athletes. They work with the kind of more general population. Certainly we do at MFF. And so talk to me a little bit. What do you think general population gyms can learn from places like yours that primarily serve an athletic population? What can we learn from how y'all do things?
Well, yeah, and that's a great question. I think, in my opinion, everybody's an athlete, and I think, yes, I'm dealing with people that, are on the TV every night and, on that world stage, whatever you want to call it, but you don't have to train at the same volume and intensity and specificity that they do, but you can learn a lot as a, average gym goer on how they prepare, on how they warm up, on why they're doing what they're doing, making sure there's a why behind it. Something that ETS was founded on was it's not just, it's not just another workout. This is training. Training is very, it's chunked out in big blocks of time. Workouts are just, here and there. Like I wanted to make a very distinct difference between what we did as a business. We are a training business. We are a coaching business. Working out is, that's something you do on a whim, or that's something that you participate in once. Training is part of a plan, right? We're doing this to do this next, right? Like I think with a lot of adults or, weekend or average Joes or whatever, they don't look at the big picture. They just look at it in very finite or snapshot terms, and I, our sell to our adult clientele, or like our normal people or everyday athlete, whatever you want to call them, is, hey, come to us for 12 months, evaluate our program after 12 months, and make sure that you've done what, you've kept yourself accountable to, whether it's 3 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever, you've stuck to the program for 12 months, and then we'll discuss whether or not you have results. And typically within 6 to 8 months of that, people are hooked. They get it. They get why we spend 30 minutes warming up, 20 minutes training, and 10 minutes cooling down typically, right? Because most normal people who are driving a desk or, doing a unique job that, makes them sit a lot of the day, or that, can be pretty non-athletic, they need those 30 minutes of moving and joint integrity and learning about themselves as the gym goer to really understand where they need to get to, as opposed to just, hey, shoulder press, bench press, whatever. That's just going to typically put them in even worse positions, right? So I think the average gym goer can look a lot to the preparation side. They can look a lot to big picture. What does the next 12 months of my life look like? Okay, how do I now make sure that training is integrated into that instead of the opposite, right? Like instead of trying to piecemeal workouts together and, maybe stress myself out at a time where I'm already stressed out. I don't need a crazy wad to, crush me even more, so it's, again, very similar to the athlete is like, okay, what's your plan? Okay, in the summertime, I like to, in Canada, everybody goes to the cottage and they drink beer. Okay, well, maybe in the summer then we hold back on some of these other, maybe we take the training volume down a little bit, right? And then once September comes and people go back to school, get back into a routine, okay, we can ramp up the training volume again. And then we know around Christmas time, okay, you're going to have Christmas parties. Okay, well, let's pull back a little bit, like it's just having those conversations around the big picture are typically, okay, it becomes a lot easier to plan. and you take that kind of the guilt or the whatever right out of the equation.
Yeah. So, Mark, I love that answer. One of the things I'm taking away from what you just said is the fact that for general pop gyms like Mark Fisher Fitness, one of the things that we might be able to learn from training gyms is to consider the long haul approach, to plan long term and get our clients to think beyond just the next 5 pounds they want to lose or beyond just the next few weeks of training. That one of the things athletes do particularly well is they plan for training to be part of their lives long term. And so the training can reflect that kind of long-term approach to setting goals and anticipating their needs. And I think that's really smart because so many training gyms I talk to, and I know we've been guilty of this at MFF, is that we have conversations about goals with clients, in our case ninjas, when they first start, but then we don't again for a very long time. Whereas with athletes are in the habit of constantly thinking about their training program and their long-term approach to building on that work over time. I think it's a really smart takeaway. So I appreciate that so much. Let's switch gears. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think too, from an actual business standpoint, like it's long-term business, and say, hey, look, we have you now from January to December. Here's what your year's going to look like, and that's how we've sold it in our gyms is that, we have like 3 or 4 distinct times a year where September to December is our back to basics program, right? Everybody goes back, the kids go back to school, back into like a more normal routine. January to April, we call the Road to 100, which we just finished. And it's kind of, a real harder training block in Canada in the winter. You don't want to go outside anyways. So, we make it fun. We put people in teams. It's competition. And May to July, August is our summer heat program, which is very like plug and play because people are busy in the summer. That's when they vacation. So, you can kind of tie somebody in for 12 months. And from a revenue standpoint, it's like locking in money, right? So there's not just there's the training side validity to it, but there's also a business case for it too.
Yeah, 100%. It's just anticipating people's needs and whether they can think of themselves or the label of athlete, whether it resonates with them or not. There's still something really valuable to thinking about training as just being part of what you do in your life and planning for it to be part of your life, summer, winter, spring, and fall, and really thinking about it as a long-term approach. I think that's really smart. Yeah, great advice. So let me ask you this. Maybe this will be our last topic for the day, which is one of the things I talk to entrepreneurs about all the time, and this has been a challenge for Mark and I as well, is scaling to multiple locations. It's kind of, for entrepreneurs like us, in many cases, it's people think like the holy grail. If once you can figure out how to run multiple locations, you've really done something magical. And so, there's a million questions I could ask about this. But for you, what has been the kind of easiest and hardest parts about having multiple locations? What are parts that felt like it just kind of happened and it was pretty easy? And what are parts that felt like you really had to work at it and are still working at it today?
Yeah, I mean, really good question. I think there's definitely a lot of rabbit holes you could go down. For us, I think it felt right to expand at different times just based on the need, right? Making sure that, okay, hey, we're going to go into this other location because we're servicing something that's in need. We expanded to our soccer location, which is our biggest gym, about 7,000 square feet, because we had a contract with the soccer that would give us, 300 to 500 kids a year, right? And that at the minimum, there's 8,000 kids that we could have access to. So to me, it's like, okay, we have to go where the population or where the need is. I think the toughest part more than anything is having the right people. And I'm very, very fortunate with my staff and partners and what have you. And, that I can't expand without the right people. We've just expanded again in Ontario, and we've done so because I have a young guy who's just chomping at the bit to be the guy. He wants to have his own shop. So we're going to do it in a way where I'm going to help him do that. And, it's making sure that he's ready to kind of just take that jump, take that leap, whatever you want to call it, to make sure that whoever gets whatever clientele is serviced there, they're serviced properly, so obviously the need for the business, and then I would say people are before that, but maybe it's a close tie with those two things. Hiring people in our field I think can be difficult, especially on the sport performance side. You get people coming in, I want to work with pro athletes. Well, go work with the 12 to 14-year-old clientele first.
Yep.
Be a really good coach. and then maybe you get a chance to work at minor pro and work your way up. I don't know anybody who just jumps right into the pros. And, even for myself, I got thrown into some situations that I probably didn't deserve to be in, and was allowed to kind of make some mistakes as a young coach. But I don't think that happens too often anymore, or at all in general. So I think I was very fortunate in that regard too. But the people is definitely, you have to have that in place, and you have to have people within, I know my business now that, hey, are better at understanding the team side of training, or individual or pro athletes versus, we have some people that don't really work with pro athletes. We have, they're more youth athletes and are regular Joes. So making sure that you have the people, and making sure you know what you have. If you have somebody that's great with a pro athlete, great. Like, let's build it around that. But if you don't, then don't sell it that way, right?
Yeah, 100%. And, finding people always seems to be one of the hardest parts of scaling our business. Even a single location can be tough to
Mm-hmm.
find the right people. And one of the ideas you just represented there was the idea of, finding some people on your team who can think like owners and want to take on more responsibility and want to run their own location at some point. And so how do you either find those people or cultivate that kind of entrepreneurial spirit in people, right? You can either look for folks who want that and hire for that, or kind of cultivate that in folks. And so, what's your approach been?
Oh, cultivation for sure. I think, again, my staff, we have one of our locations is on the campus of Ontario Tech University, which is a school in Oshawa, Ontario. And, I started with them 15, 16 years ago myself. And, we had like a soccer team and a hockey team, and hence why I got hired for the hockey team. And, I made about $500 for the year for about 500 hours of work. But
Mm-hmm.
it started something there. We started the kinesiology program. I started like guest lecturing and teaching. And that just started now we have, as of date, 24 interns for this summer. So we're now getting to cultivate employees without having to pay them, which is nice,
Mm-hmm.
or very minimal pay on our end. And then I would say 95% of our hires come from that program.
Sure.
So I've only hired outside of that program maybe twice, in the last 9-10 years. So it truly is that cultivation. If you have the opportunity to do that, it's just so much easier, because, my staff, they get to know how I operate and how I think. If you want to chase down something, great, but make sure you have a business case behind it. This is not a charity. We want to take care of people and be fair, but, it's got to make sense financially, and I think my young coaches grew up in that environment where, hey, if you brought something to the table, we're gonna pick it apart and, poke holes in it. But if it's good, it'll survive, and you're gonna benefit from that. So I think, creating that environment isn't overly difficult, but the cultivation is difficult. The cultivation of expectations in the gym, the cultivation of how you carry yourself, social media now, and all
Mm-hmm.
those little things. Like, and I'm not trying to create robots, but it's just more of like, hey, if you want to be a coach at a high level, here's one way to maybe look at doing it. I've had some success in this area, not to say that you have to do it the way that I did it, but you see the jerseys on our wall, you see the people that are coming through here. Well, maybe you can learn something, and
Yeah.
that's people that come in with that attitude have done super well in our programs. And I think that goes back to my staff getting the credit for, where they're cultivating those people. They're really putting the work in with those people and the programming and the education. And now all I have to do is really just, pick up a Zoom call and chat with them, or, just show up, and I think my staff does such a phenomenal job. So I think that cultivation piece is key. And, it's easily done, even in a normal gym fitness or gym business, reaching out to a local college that has a health and wellness program or kin program. Those students are always looking for experience. And I think
Yeah.
the ones that come with a wide array of experience are the ones that do the best, so I don't think you should shut the doors to cultivating that culture, even if you're in the general fitness business, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I think that, the takeaway there for listeners is really just to have a good pipeline of people flowing into your business. So you have
Yeah.
always, the access to new people with new skills, who you can groom to be part of the business. And then at some
Hmm.
point, because what you're teaching all of those new interns to do is just how to be good coaches, how to do the work. You're teaching them how to do stuff. And at some point, it sounds like you also open up the door to encourage them to learn how to think differently. So not just do what they're told, be a good coach, follow all your standards and procedures and processes. But at some point, you're saying, bring me ideas, and I'm going to teach you how we think about it. And I think that's the moment where you're teaching people how to be entrepreneurs, where you're teaching people to think like an owner. You say, bring me an idea for how you want to engage with our athletes or our clients. And then I'm going to show you how I think about it, pick it apart, challenge you, force you to go back and find more evidence, revise your ideas. And I think that's the school you're building of of ownership, think like an owner. So I think that's a really great picture for people to have in their minds. Is if you want people to be more entrepreneurial and have a sense of ownership of the business, then give them opportunities to do that, to bring ideas and to learn how to challenge their own thinking. So I think that's fantastic. Yeah. Great example, Mark. So let's do this. Let's do our final 5 questions. I know we've had our technical difficulties here, so we should just quit while we're ahead and get to the final 5 questions, because I think in some of these we might go on a few tangents, so I'm going to leave time for it. But these are just 5 final questions I ask everyone on the podcast. They're really just about you. They're meant to be kind of rapid fire, but I might ask a follow-up question. We can take our time. We don't have any bosses here. So 5 questions. Here they are. Question number 1, Mark. What's one thing, just one thing, that you love about being a gym owner?
Community, I think, more than anything. I look at the gyms, as our main gym anyways, as kind of like a bar without the booze, a place where people can come together, keep each other accountable, push each other, support each other. I think that's, even though I don't live in the same hometown, it's still, that's my hometown, and I enjoy being part of that community, supporting the community, and really being a place within that community that, is contributing. And I think that's probably that fills me up with pride, and nothing to do with financial, nothing to do with anything other than, hey, we're a part of the community. And that's important to me.
Yeah, well said. I love that phrase, a bar without the booze. We've said that similar thing in MFF. It's like we wanted people to walk in and feel like it's their own personal cheers, which kind of dates me because a lot of our listeners probably don't even know what that show is, but you get the idea. Yeah. Awesome. Go question number 2. Mark, we talk a lot about kind of customer experience and over delivering for our customers. So what's one of the most coolest or most memorable things that you've done for a client in one of your businesses? Something you've done just really over deliver for them personally. What comes to mind?
Oh man, I think I'm very lucky with, having the opportunity to do that. I think probably actually most recent, we have one of our clients who's an adult client, like our adult fitness. And then his sons also train with our business or with the gym as well. They're rugby players. And most of his house actually burnt down.
Oh, wow.
Probably two months ago. So there's 2 parts to this. And obviously he's a phenomenal person and he supports our business so well. Not just by being a patron, but just other little things that, just looking to help us and what have you. And the rugby community, which is a community that I'm not as heavily involved with, or wasn't until a few years ago, that our business, I hired some coaches that had rugby background, and we built a rugby business now, which is cool. So anyways, a man's house mostly burnt down. And the community that we are involved with came together and built him a gym at the rugby clubhouse. So we used the rugby locker room to build him a gym. Somebody donated flooring, I donated equipment, got it done. And it's a small thing, but to see his face and his sons, it was just, you get those tingles again, and you get that, that we knew it was important to him. We can't rebuild his house in a matter of days, but we can make him a gym that he can use to get away from that for a little while, to bond with his sons, and having kids now, especially, that's important. And, it's kind of fleeting at the same time. My kids are still pretty young, but he has teenage boys. It's definitely more fleeting for him. They're going to go off to school. They're going to go and do, start their lives. And, that filled me up quite a bit. I was a small part of it, but it was something that was, fun, or came together through the gym, and through the rugby club, which is pretty amazing. And, that doesn't happen without community. That doesn't happen without people who know it's not just about our training programs. Yes, are our training programs good? Yeah, of course they are. Are we, doing all the things that we should do? Yes, but it's about more than that. It's about, Norm coming into Cheers. He can go to a lot of other bars. Now I'm dating myself, so I'm right there with you. But he comes into that place because people care. People care, and Boyle says it. People don't know how much you know until they know how much you care, and like you have to think that way. And it speaks to customer service. It speaks to community. They can go anywhere for training. There's a lot of incredible, intelligent trainers and coaches out there. We're filled with them. It's amazing, but you have to have that other side too, in my
Sure.
opinion.
Yeah, 100%. Beautiful example. I love that. Great story. Question number 3. This one's about your team. When you see someone in your team do this, it makes you really happy. So what behavior do you see on your team that just like really lights you up when you see them do it?
I think we kind of touched on it before. It's just when they own it, when they, one of our coaches, Manny, he's a former intern. I remember the day so clearly of offering him his first full-time role with us. And, he was emotional and I was emotional because it was just a guy that we've cultivated. He came into his own. He just, and now he's one of my lead guys. And, he's turned our intern program to, like I said, I think we have 24 right now in different stages of intern work study, research study, what have you. And he presented something to me about 2 weeks ago, and I was floored. I was floored at just like how much he cares and how much work he's put into this. And now we're seeing the fruits of that with, a lot of free labor, which is nice to have right now. And, he's really steering that ship and making these kids excited about working for my company and, being a part of us. And like that, especially with me not being there every day, that's hard to do. And those types of people are, I'll do anything I would have done anything for him before, but now it's like, I know he's all in, I know he's all in. And that to me just goes like, wow, this is more than a business. This is more than a gym. We're community now. We're family now. So I don't know, that fills me up, and I'm probably rambling a little bit because I don't even know how to describe it, because I was proud of him. I'm not his dad, but like I was proud of him because it was just like, man, I didn't tell you to do this. You did this because we needed it, and like, how else are you going to fill your time right now? You could complain and you could play video games and you could, post on social. No, what did you do? You revamped our whole program and made it better. Like that's, to me, I don't even know what it is, but it's incredible.
Yeah, amazing. Great answer. Awesome. We're on number 4. Question number 4. This one's about marketing. So, what is your most reliable strategy for generating leads? So, if tomorrow you need to go find a dozen more leads, where do you turn first? Where's your most reliable strategy?
Well, I'm probably a little bit old school for this one, but it's word of mouth. It really is, like in our gyms. Part of the process. If you want a jersey up on the wall, you have to play a professional game, or you have to compete at the Olympics, or you have to basically play at the highest level. So we have some judo gis up there. We have a bobsled suit. We have a ton of hockey jerseys, football, baseball. And when you do that, you get to, sign the jersey. I put it up on the wall. It cost me about $200 or in and around there. And now we have about 60 or 70 jerseys up on the wall, right, in that one location. So actually maybe even more than that now. But, so that's kind of the money that I spent. Otherwise, we don't really do it. So if I wanted to generate some more business, I would call some of my current athletes. Hey, we have some openings. Do you have anybody that you'd recommend? And I typically wouldn't even do that, to be honest. It's just, it kind of happens by migration, or, the athletes now, in my opinion, are way more educated as to, us as coaches, like, what kind of coach are you? I had a player say that to me one time. I'm like, I'm not really sure I understand what you're asking, but here's what I like to focus on, and I think, unfortunately, in the performance coaching world, there's a lot of coaches that just focus solely, okay, I'm an Olympic lifting guy. That's all I do. I don't do anything else. So it's unfortunate that we're not looking for different strategies, or, being more open-minded to what's out there, and I think that's going back to the marketing and trying to get people. I think it goes back to results again.
Yeah. Well, I think what I'm hearing in that is that, when you have a really strong community and people have been around for a long time, that when you need to generate leads, you just reach into your pool of existing members and past members, ask for those referrals, connect deeper to your community. And then that's where the new people come from, is from the connections you've already formed. So I think that's a great answer. Last one. This is our final one. Question number 5. What is one thing you think gym owners can start doing better tomorrow? Just one thing you think they can all start improving tomorrow if they just did this.
You know what? I would say mine's more of a, big picture answer. I don't think I have a real strategic, implementable, right away thing, if that
Sure.
makes any sort of sense. But
Yeah.
it's something I say to my staff a lot. It's something that I try to, come at the job with. And that is just remembering why we're doing what we're doing. Remembering
Sure.
that, when someone comes in for a training session, a workout, whatever you want to call it, there's no better feeling than post-workout. Even if it was a terrible workout, you still did it. Even if
Yeah.
it wasn't what you wanted to accomplish, you still are there, right? So I just try to remind my staff that, like, you're a part of the you're a part of the best part of someone's day. So whatever stuff you have going on, whatever, issues or, whatever, park it. Not to be fake, don't be phony, but, like, just remember that, you have a chance to impact somebody for the rest of their day. They get to take that with them when they leave. My brother's a firefighter, my other brother's a police officer. They do some incredible things, frontline workers, but they also see some pretty awful things too, and we have an opportunity to only be positive, realistically. And I think, just having that headspace and having that frame of reference is a very good one. I think sometimes people in an industry can kind of get forgotten, and
Yeah.
how lucky we are, and how we get to, be a part of that. And that's pretty
Yeah.
special. When you walk out of the gym, you got that post-workout glow, whatever you want to call it. You're sore, you're tired, I got to do this awful workout today, but it's for a really good reason. So yeah, I'm not looking forward to it, but I know how good I'm going to feel when I'm done, so
Yeah.
it's just having that good frame of reference and making sure that, hey, it speaks to customer service. It speaks to keeping customers, retention. It speaks to, just the culture, the community of the facility. Like, just remember why you're here. You're the best part of someone's day. You get to be involved in that. And you can't say that very often about most jobs in our world, right? So
For sure.
just keep that in mind, and just deliver off that, work
Yeah.
off that. That's a good thing to work off of.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of something. And I think it's actually really actionable and tactical. Is that tomorrow, go into the business and see if you can't remind yourself and others why you're there, right? Remind
Mm.
yourselves that you are the best part of clients' days and that you have an opportunity to do really great work and put some positivity in someone's life, help them challenge themselves, help them grow, help them have some fun in their day, help them take care of themselves. Like, that's a real opportunity. So I think that's a great answer and a great way to wrap up this conversation, frankly. So bravo. That was a fantastic final 5 questions. You crushed it. And so tell me this, Mark, how are our listeners and viewers, how do they find more of you? How do they find you on the interwebs? Can they work with you? What can you tell them?
Yeah, I'll just the regular mediums, I guess, to get in contact is at Fitzgerald ETS on Twitter and Instagram and all those places.
Great.
FitzgeraldETS.com is our facilities in Ontario. And then out here, I'm actually wearing the shirt, is Kelowna High Performance. That's my new company out on the West Coast. So KelownaHighPerformance.ca. We'll get you there as well. And yeah, we're right in the middle of our hockey off season. So I'll have anywhere from 24 to 30 professional hockey players here with me in a matter of weeks. And right now we're starting with some of our It's called junior hockey and NCAA athletes. So it's
Great.
this is a busy time of year for me. So it's
Yeah.
exciting.
That's so exciting. Well, we'll include links to all that down below in the show notes and wherever we're posting this. And thanks for taking time out of your day on the start of a busy season for you. So this is a great conversation, and I think so many actionable takeaways for our listeners. So thank you for doing this.
Yeah, of course. Really enjoyed it, Michael. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, Mark, have a great rest of your day and a kick-ass season. We'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Okay, man. All the best.
Bye-bye. Hey friends, before you go, just one more thing. If you enjoy this podcast, you get value out of it, you enjoy listening, please share this podcast, comment below. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. Please share it with friends and family. We don't spend any money on marketing or advertising. And so the only way people find out about this podcast is from you. So please do everything you can to share it with friends and fellow colleagues in the fitness industry. We love making it and we want to keep doing it for a long, long time. So I appreciate your support. Go have a kick-ass day. Bye.